YouTube channel. Today we are going to do an accent wall. Now this is a small wall, but it's just to demonstrate how to do an accent wall, the steps, the materials, everything you need. Now this is going to be a little different than a normal, what people are considering accent walls right now or doing as accent walls right now. It's not going to be monochromatic, but you guys have to wait and see what I'm going to do with it. I have done a monochromatic wall. Actually, I've done two. This one is in my son's room in the nursery, and this one is in my office. I also did this one down here in my basement. And it's not really just one wall. It goes across the whole 3 walls on one side of the basement room. So this one is going to be a little different. I haven't done one like this before. But if you see my fireplace, then I am trying to tie it in with this. That's just a little hint of what this one's going to look like. So first I'm going to start with painting it. This wall has already been painted before. We painted it agreeable gray all down here. And then I decided I didn't want all agreeable gray. But that was a good start anyway, because it was like this ugly yellow beigey color that I don't know what it was that came in the house. So I'm going to start with painting this wall black. I'm using Limousine Black by Bear because it's the same black that I've already used down here on the window trim as well as the bookcasing. Now, normally because this wall is so small, I would not tape it off. But for video purposes, I'm going to go ahead and tape it off for you guys because you should tape. Because you don't want to create more work for yourself unless you are just really good at edging, which I like to think that I've been painting so much the last few years that I've gotten really good at edging and not needing to paint. But I'm going to paint this for training purposes. So let's paint the wall black first. What I still do this sometimes depending on what I need to paint. Home Depot, also Lowe's, has like an all-in-one kit. It'll come with a tray, like a foil tray. Sometimes they'll come with the plastic covers to cover the tray so that way you can use the foil part again, which I have quite a few of those because I always keep them. It'll come with like a generic paintbrush, which I haven't tried the Lowe's kit, but the Home Depot kit, they work at actually really good brushes. This isn't one. This is a Woodster, a little more pricier brush, but I like it. But the brush in the kit works well. It also comes with a roller, a 9-inch roller. I believe this is a 12-inch roller. The box comes with a 9-inch roller, the actual roller handle, maybe like a 4-inch roller. Either way, it's like a $9 buy. Really good if you're just like doing a one-off paint project. I buy them all the time actually. But at this point I've built up a lot of supplies, so I'm trying to use what I have. I am out of covers that go in here to preserve it. But it's fine because I'm not going to let the paint dry in here. This is not an overnight project, so the paint won't be sitting in here. So I'm just going to use it and then clean it out. So this is like a paint can opener. They sell them, but if you go to Home Depot, if you get paint at Home Depot, I don't know if they give them at Lowe's, or any other paint store. At Home Depot, they give these free when you get a thing of paint. Now this is a paint that I already had, and it's probably pretty old because I think because this is eggshell matte, I'm pretty sure this is the one that I used in the office, and I did the office probably 2 years ago now, almost 2 years ago. Because this paint has been sitting, it needs to be stirred. So like I said, this paint is a little old. It's latex paint, so I'm gonna go grab some water and see if that loosens it up because it's like a third of a can of paint in here, just enough to paint this wall. And I don't want to go buy new paint. Let's go try to loosen this paint up. Now, I also do have paint thinner, but because this is latex paint, it should just work with some water. How much, I don't know. So this is an experiment for us both. It is loosening up. So let me mix all this water in so it's not just watery. let's test it out. It's still a little thick, but let's see how it rolls on. But first, tape. Now this is painter's tape, Scotch painter's tape. I prefer frog tape, which is the green tape. I just don't have a lot of it left. So one thing I just realized, as soon as I turned around to start to paint, or to attempt to start to paint, I'm using a 12-inch roller and a 9-inch tray. That's not gonna work. And the reason I'm using a 12-inch roller is because I don't have any more 9-inch rollers. Now, I typically prime a wall and then paint a wall. These walls have already been primed because I painted on, like I said before, I painted over it already. So I'm not worried about primer right now. Plus this is eggshell paint. So, and I also use paint with primer. My wall isn't very high right now, so I can reach it with my arm. But if you need to get higher, most of the rollers, all rollers, don't think I've ever seen one without, quite possible, have a hole at the bottom, and you just get an extender. Now, the reason you see me going back over the edges with rollers after I do the paintbrush is because I hate the sound of a paintbrush stroke. So I'm not applying any more paint. I'm just kind of smoothing out the paintbrush strokes as much as I can. All right, so that's coat 1. I'm gonna wait about, so you can reapply like after 30 minutes for the second coat. But because the paint still was just a little thick, I'm gonna give it 45 minutes and then I'll come back and paint the second coat. Wall dried really well. Like the first coat looks really good. I don't need a third coat. I'm just gonna go over some spots I see with the second coat. Good. And while I was letting it dry, I was looking from up the stairs and I decided to go ahead and paint the baseboard because why not? It was giving me sore thumb. So let's paint it. So just in case you don't know this, when you're painting and I'm done my second coat, I have left tape on the wall for days, weeks after I paint it, and I haven't come back to the project yet. It's best to pull it off while it's still wet because then you don't have to worry about ripping any of the paint off and having to make any fixes after the fact. See, nice, clean, live. Okay, so this is my table saw because I normally get 1x2s, but they didn't have any 1x2s in stock when I went. So I got 1x3s, which are really probably 2.5s. So, which is fine because I don't want these to be wide anyway. So I'm gonna cut them down to 1 1/4. This is my guide. There is a ruler on this side. So I set it at 1.25, a little over because I want to take into consideration the thickness of the blade. So I'm gonna cut these in half while I'm waiting for my wall to dry. Okay, just to recap, and this is still all in one day. I had to run errands, so I had to change clothes. But so just to recap, my wall is done. I did paint the baseboard. I did paint this side, which I need to go over one more time. I just felt like the whole thing just needed to be painted. So now I'm gonna start on attaching my wood. I'm gonna use my brad nail gun. I believe these are 18 gauge nails. I'm pretty sure that's what they are. Do not use glue to adhere your wood to the wall. You may decide next year, year after next, year after that, you don't want this anymore. And the glue has now destroyed the drywall potentially. You may have to patch up more than you need to patch up. But this, if I decide to take this down, all I have to patch up are nail holes, okay? So we're just gonna attach this with brad nails. Yeah, so let me start that. Now, if you're, depending on your design, of course, you may need to be using a level to put yours up. I am gonna grab a level in a second. So when I start putting the vertical bars up, also, you have to determine how much space you want between your wood. If you're doing like a design similar to mine. Otherwise, if you're doing something abstract, then have at it free will, which are a little bit more easier and free, honestly, in my opinion. But now I'm doing something a little more structured. I have to determine how far apart I want my pieces of wood to be. So I have this wood that I cut earlier that I thought I was gonna use instead of the thickness of those. And I think I'm gonna use the width of these as my spacers. So I'm gonna test it out first. I'm just gonna do a quick run through of everything. So I gave the wall 2 coats of paint. And then I did decide to paint the baseboard. I painted the side. And then I went and cut my wood based on my design. Now my angles are all straight angles. If you decide your design requires 45-degree angle cuts, you will need to use a miter saw, whether that be a hand miter saw or an electric miter saw. A miter saw is really easy to use. To me, it's probably the easiest to use. Has the angles on there. You just down, cut at the angle. That's what I use on both of my other 2 walls, miter saw, but they're also, the wood required being cut at 45-degree angles, so I had to use a miter saw. In a normal world where I was doing a the typical accent wall, monochromatic, I would now be caulking these lines here, even though they're super close together. Thankfully, I don't have to caulk this because I'm going for a slate look anyway. As far as caulking, I'll put here the brand that I always use that I prefer. I believe the name of it is Alex. You always want to make sure that you are using paintable, flexible caulk. Take the lesson from me. The first time on my first wall that I did, I accidentally bought non-paintable caulk, and thankfully I didn't do the entire wall, but I started painting once it dried and the paint was just separating. And I was like, what's going on? So then I had to use my caulk scraper to scrape off as much as I could, and then cover it with caulk, with paintable caulk. So make sure you are using paintable caulk to caulk any lines you have. Now, also in a monochromatic world of accent walls, I would always get white common board. This is pine common board. It's not as smooth. It's more likely I need to sand some of these edges. I should have done it before I put them on, but I didn't. So I need to do a little sanding. The white common board, it's already sanded, it's already smooth, it's already painted white. Use the white common board if you plan on painting your wood. That's what I normally use. It does cost a little bit more, but it's completely worth it any issues. So since I am not painting this wood, I am staining this wood. So I don't have to, I'm not gonna worry about caulking because I'm going with the slate look. Yes, you can buy the new slate pieces that are already slated for you, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But this one is actually going to match my fireplace, which is already stained, has already been stained. First things first, no matter whether you are painting monochromatic wall or staining, you want to fill these nail holes. I don't have the wood that this particular wood filler that I'm going to talk about. I don't have it right now, but I normally always buy it. It is purple. It's called like DAP, I think. It is purple when you put it on. So it's like an indicator wood filler. It's purple when you fill it in, and then as it dries a natural color. I'll put the name of it in there. But I'm going to fill my nail holes, first things first. And then after I fill my nail holes, I am going to put some wood conditioner on these. And that has to sit for 30 minutes. And while that's sitting, I'm gonna give my edge over here a second paint. And then I'm gonna come back and stain. So, first things first, let's fill these holes. Okay, so this is actually day 2 now. We're officially on day 2. And that is because I went to open my wood filler last night, and apparently the top wasn't on as well as I thought it was, so I had to go get some more wood filler this morning because I couldn't fill my holes, my nail holes. And honestly, filling nail holes, I really prefer to do it with my finger because they're so small and it just, I don't know, it's just more precise to me. Messy, yes. So when you're filling these nail holes, you want to use as little putty as possible because you don't want to do it over, you don't want to have to do so much sanding. Like you don't want to have to overwork, you don't want to have to over sand. So you kind of want to get it just enough to cover the nail hole to minimize the sanding you'll have to do later. Now, one thing that I don't think I mentioned, because you don't know where your studs, I mean, unless you use a stud finder and find your studs, you don't particularly know where your studs are. So make sure you use enough nails to secure your wood on the wall, okay? Because what we don't want is it popping out because someone hit the wall or over time. So make sure you use enough brad nails to secure the wood into the wall. Okay, so I'm gonna let this dry. I think it has to sit for like 30 minutes. So I don't waste this, use it on my stairs. And then I'll come back to this and be ready to sand and stain. Okay, so it's been over 30 minutes. So I'm gonna sand my nail holes. You can use your electric sander. I'm just gonna use this since I don't have that many. And yeah, so I'm gonna sand these so I can get ready to stain them. After you sand them, you wanna wipe them down before you paint or stain. So you wipe away any of the sanding dust, dirt, all that stuff. So also when you're doing a wall, really just depending on what your design is, and you want it to all look like one piece, you will have to use wood filler like here so this won't show like where these two pieces of wood connect, like here. You want to smooth it over with the wood filler as well, so that'll be another place you'll have to sand. If you want to make it look like all one piece, which I have done on one wall, the office wall, which I'll show. When you want to make it look seamless, essentially, like you'll have to fill these with wood as well and sand them down. That really just depends on your design. This is slate, so there's no need for it to look like all one piece. So now I'm going to take this damp paper towel and just wipe it clean. So now I'm ready to stain. I'm going to do the first coat. I think I only did 2 coats on the fireplace, but it really just depends. Different wood takes stain differently. And I used English chestnut. I thought it was special walnut, but this is what I had in the garage, so this is what it had to be. So English chestnut is what I'm using. So you can use a cloth with this. I like the paper towel that I use because it's almost like, I don't know, really smooth and soft, like a microfiber-ish. So I like using it to stain. So this is what I'm gonna use. I'm gonna dip it in there. I'm gonna pick up quite a bit because you kind of want to put it on, not where it's dripping everywhere, but a nice little coat, and then we'll wipe it off once we let it sink, once we get it all covered and let it sink in. I'm gonna do it section by section. So I think I'm gonna start at the top. Now go build your perfect accent wall. And if you have any questions that I didn't cover or any extra questions, just drop them down in the comment box below and I will definitely answer you back. And stay tuned for my next video next week where we will be changing out light fixtures. Bye, girl.